earthy, lubricating, building kind of properties. The Pitta will have that metabolic, that fiery part. Just think about the stomach and the small intestine. That's where the digestive fire is happening, where the food that we eat is being cooked inside so that we can break that down and extract and cook down the nutrients and get that out. There's that cooking, that fiery kind of part that's happening there. And the Vata, you'll see things like the colon and the bones. The bones are, they're basically lattice type structures with a lot of the space in there. The colon is, there's a lot of the wind element in the colon, okay? A lot of the Vata element. The head and the thoughts and the nervous system are all Vata. So this is how we talk about the organs of the body. The other main thing that we need to know about, there are also tendencies of the mental setup, of a person's mental setup. Like what kind of qualities is a person exhibiting? So the basic thing, and there's a kind of a continuum here, right? From tamasic to rajasic to sattvic. Tamasic is that like a stone fixed, that inertia, just dull kind of a quality. That's the tamasic. And a tamasic kind of a mental setup would be someone that's just depressed, dull, lazy, can't get the get-go going kind of a thing, right? You can't get it. There's too much tamas there. Dull, sluggish. That is an imbalance there, okay? The rajasic part will be, and again, there's not a good or a bad here. You need all of these things, but you need them in the right proportion to get balance. You could see if you had too much tamas in your system, it's dulling, it's depressing, it's lazy, it's tired, it's heavy, right? We all know what that experience is like, and it's like, that kind of a thing, like that doesn't feel good, right? So you need some fire. Somebody says, light a fire under that fellow. Let's get it going. I think the saying,
how does this connect with the doshas?
I will try to tie this together in a second. That's a little more advanced connection. The connection between the gunas and the doshas. They're corresponding. These are more what we could think of as mental qualities, and the doshas they're a little bit more subtle quality than the doshas. With the doshas, we mapped them onto physical organs, onto different locations of the body, this kind of thing. We made that connection. A little more subtle in the mental sphere, we have the gunas. So there's not necessarily like a physical interface there. It's more of a quality or a tendency that the prakriti, the nature, divides into.
So
these.
Dosha does not connect specifically to
You could roughly try to map a kapha to tamas, a pitta to rajas, and a vata to the sattva. You can make that jump. You will make that jump. And I actually have a map that I did years ago that connects, and I called it the gunas in the doshas, right? Because they're there. You're perceiving, your perception is right. It's happening there. But these are very, very subtle differences here. Again, we want to introduce these concepts of doshas, of the elements, the constitution of a person, the combination and permutation of the elements. We speak about them in the doshic system. And then the gunas. This is the 101 part of this. This can get very, very, very detailed and very, very, very subtle. I want to keep it at this introductory level because we can get super refined. But the idea is to introduce these so you can start to look at the world through this lens. This is the lens that I look at through my medicine. And I'm glad that I had this this lens introduced to me before I went to medical school. Because even in naturopathic medical school, there is a level of really physical understanding with that. Naturopathic medicine, a lot of it gets caught up in herbs or nutrients or supplements, this for that kind of a mental setup. And I call that a green allopathic mental setup, and they teach us about drugs and prescribing in naturopathic medicine also. And depending on which state we're in, a lot of naturopaths prescribe a lot of drugs. In Arizona, where I went to medical school, we have a huge prescription rights. In California, where we practice, I still have a DEA number. We can prescribe all these things, and they do that. But it's really physical. So I'm glad that I had this kind of a lens to start to look at the human system through. And that's what I want to transmit, is that lens to start to look in the world in terms of the elements. That's the raw, really, it's the most basic thing, but it's the most important thing that's happening. To see the world and start to interpret and start to cognize and have that paradigm shift. That's the paradigm shift right there, where you start looking at the world in terms of balancing the elements, assessing the elements, and balancing the elements. Okay? That's the key thing. And we need to understand the elements to understand the doshas and the gunas. We need that kind of framework. There's a whole other system of anatomy that exists. Again, very, very, very detailed anatomy of the human system that goes much more into the full spectrum human being. Okay? There's the flesh and bones part for sure. There's the nervous system, the circulatory system, the lymphatic system, the organs, the tissues, the bones, all this stuff is happening. And that's just part of it, okay? That part of it is part of the Annamaya kosha, the food body. That's the food body, is the Annamaya kosha. Ayurveda and the yogic sciences know also about the pranamaya kosha, the breath body, the breathing system, okay? The manamaya kosha, the mental layer of the body. The vijnanamaya, the subtle knowledge and key concepts that we can grasp. And then the anandamaya is the pure bliss, okay? These are, and within these you can see the energy centers here in the body. And these we can map out on the spine. And they correspond to different organs, different glands in the body. So this is, again, very advanced way that we can work with medicine. And it opens up a whole nother realm when we look through the lens of this. Because modern medicine and technology is looking just at the food body, just at the Annamaya Kosha. That's it. That's all, folks. Where's the pathway? Where's the biochemistry? Where's this whole kind of thing, right? There's a whole nother system that we can use to work with. And why is this important? We need to have this understanding so we can bring the balance to the elements in the body. If there is an imbalance, we need to know that we have these other access points that we can work with. Because what is the disease is that, it's known as vyadi. The disease process is different types of pain and grief in the body and the mind. There's different types of pain and grief in the body and the mind is always trying to throw off the grief or the pain and find that balance. That's the basic understanding that we need to have. The body is always, there's that strategic intelligence that's working regardless of what you do. If you understand this or not, it doesn't change the fact that your body is always healing itself, is always trying to self-correct, is always doing this. Cut yourself. What happens? Even if you sit there and tell it, don't heal, don't heal. I mean, right? There will be some influence there, and it probably will heal a little slower. But regardless of what you know, do you know the mechanism and the pathway and exactly which inflammatory cytokines and blah, 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 blah is going on to heal that? No, it just happens. If you throw something off the top of this building, it's going to fall. There's just a principle at work there, certain natural principles, and the body's ability to try to right itself and try to fix things is just one of those principles. And that's what the yogic sciences, that's what naturopathy, that's what natural medicine is really about. It's not so much about taking what herb is good for a headache, what herb is good for a stomach ache. I bumped my toe, stubbed my toe. What, you know what I'm saying? That's good. That's the first step out of the allopathic paradigm, where they're using harsh drugs, chemical interventions, poisons. You cannot poison the body back to health. It won't happen. You cannot poison the body back to health. Cancer does not happen because you have a chemotherapy deficiency. See what I'm saying? Diseases don't happen because you have a drug deficiency. Right? It sounds a little silly, and I am being a little facetious because it's hilarious. Like, if you really think about it, it's like, what is going on out there? And this is where we need to switch. So the first step out of that paradigm is realizing, I don't think I can poison my way back to health. Okay, cool. What else can I do? I'm going to try to find some natural stuff to do. I'm going to find some natural stuff to try to get my stomach back online. I'm going to find some natural stuff to address my headaches or whatever. And that's the first step. But the deeper you get into this rabbit hole, this is what I'm basically taking you fast forward down into the rabbit hole. So you're never going to be able to turn back now. So if you had not gotten yourself into that rabbit hole already, you're there, and you can't pretend that you don't know anymore. So the deeper you get in this, you arrive at this conclusion and this understanding that there is a self-correcting, innate, strategic intelligence that's happening in the body, in my body, in your body, in all the bodies of the plants and the animals and all the sentient beings on the planet. And it's pro-life. It wants to live, it wants to experience as much life as possible. That is the trip. A human body is the hottest ticket, most advanced technology that there is. There is nothing that can do this because it has, in the waking state, all this is happening. And then deeper than that, we have this self-correcting intelligence that's happening, and when the health is happening in the body, that's all good. But the thing with the human system, it's more. It is so pro-life, it will straight out enlighten you if you allow it to spontaneously happen. You will be dialed in and start to experience things that are extraordinary. Extraordinary capabilities, things like reading people's minds, remote viewing, manifestation, materialization. These kinds of things are the kinds of things that are actually happening on the planet. I've seen it happen. This body has actually experienced that and materialized things and teleported things at a distance. This is the kind of thing that is really going on here, and this is the really the more part that I get interested in. That's more the advanced stuff. But the foundation is understanding that the body is a self-correcting intelligence that wants to be healthy and knows how to be. You just have to stop poisoning it. Give the body what it needs, take out the garbage, stimulate the vital force. Things happen. All the good things happen. What's the health? This is kind of where we just were. I get ahead of myself. So we're talking about the balanced state of the elements, the doshas, the gunas, the removal and the absence of symptoms. Symptoms are not the disease. Okay, this again is where the business of medicine, and be very, very clear, if you don't know, medicine is the biggest business that's happening right now. Okay, and they're in the business of keeping people sick and keeping people locked down and creating customers for life. They give you this tag, this disease, this condition that is forever, and you got to come on back and take my medicine forever and ever. And this whole kind of thing, okay? It's not true. The symptoms that are there, as symptoms come up, diseases, conditions, regardless of what they are just an expression. They're telling you there's an imbalance in the body. And based on what the presentation of that is, it's going to tell you where the imbalance is in the elements, and you can correct that. In the body and the mind, there are no two same things. Two people can come in with a similar set of symptoms or presentation, and they may get they're probably going to get a different approach. And this is something that we're gonna talk about over the next few slides. But again, kind of where we were saying, when everything is balanced here, and this is showing us that the proper balance of the elements, the proper balance of the doshas for an individual's constitution, then they can catapult and move into the realm of the spiritual fulfillment and really fulfilling what's their divine purpose. What did God land you in a body to do? Now let's get with it. Let's get busy. Let's do it. You got to be feeling good. So how do we figure this out in the Ayurvedic system? There's different kinds of things. One of the extraordinary capabilities that awakens in a healthy system is body scanning. That's one way. Constitutional evaluation, pure energetic analysis. The more physical ways, we've been talking about the constitutional evaluation. What's this person's individual constitution? What's their body type? What are their tendencies? What are they looking like? The Jyotishi is the astrology. There is a particular arrangement of celestial bodies that can give some information and some insight into a condition. Pulse diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, abdominal diagnosis, inspecting, looking at a person, palpating, touching, examining, and questioning. Amazing information. And in the physical and the mental realms, you ask a lot of questions, you're going to figure some stuff out. And this is, again, if you ever sit with me and we do an intake, or you come in and you have some stuff going on, I'm going to ask you a ton of questions and figure out, where is this coming from? When did this first happen? What's going on? What is the exact nature of this that's going on in the physical, in the mental, emotional, spiritual dimension? All these are linked together. This is holistic medicine. This is what the Ayurvedic sciences are giving us. So the basic understandings, to kind of reiterate some of the things that we've talked about: the macrocosm and the microcosm, the Vata Pitta Kapha being the governing principles. Certain things here, like increases like. Opposites can balance each other. Let's see the like increases like. Like increases like. So if I have somebody with indigestion and reflux, that's kind of a Pitta. That's in the Pitta predominant category, okay? And now if I give that person a bunch of spicy and really fiery type foods, what will happen? They're going to be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you like aggravating my symptoms? Don't you know what you're doing? Okay? That's the fire increasing the fire. It's the fire's burning and then you just throw some more wood on it. It's like, whoa. Okay? Opposites curing each other. Let's just stay with the reflux, the burning kind of a presentation. We want to give something that is cooling, that has some of the moistening kind of qualities to it. So we may choose foods or herbs that have those kinds of qualities, right? Where we can cool that fire and put out that fire. So this is really important in deciding how we go into, we've kind of talked about what's going on, how do we approach that, what's elements are in balance, out of balance, and then now we're getting into the what do we do about it? How do we need to approach this thing? Like cures like in small amounts. This is where the whole system of homeopathy comes from. They say it's only 200 years old that Samuel Hahnemann, a German medical doctor, founded homeopathy. That's what the books say. And I believe that. I think Samuel Hahnemann was truly, he had a stroke of genius in him. And he had this revelation. He documented all this. And it works. But the roots go back thousands of years. So I'll give credit where I know credit's due. And it's to the Vedic rishis. And they knew this. Whatever affects the body affects the mind, and vice versa. We can't split these apart. We can't split something that's going on with the body and not understand that that's going to be affecting a person's mind as well. If something, and vice versa, if something's going on in a person's mind, if there's been a grief, a trauma, a shock, a something going on, and they're totally spun out with their mind and their emotions, you have to understand that that's going to be intimately connected. It's going to affect your body. We have to understand these. And again, these are the basic understandings that we need to have in order to walk around here. This is the operating manual. These are the things that this is the operating manual, these understandings, okay? And the basic understanding that food is medicine and medicine is food. Food is medicine and medicine is food. Question?
Yeah, so if somebody is very vata, would you want to use pitta in certain situations, or?
You would want to ground that person.
Right, but I mean, what is the purpose for not influencing it and grounding it?
If a person, let's take an example. The question is about vata, if there's a vata imbalance and we want to correct that. Right?
Meaning they are strongly vata instead of strongly pitta or kapha.
So that if a person is constitutionally vata, I'm a vata pitta constitution, okay? So what does that look like if a vata becomes imbalanced? This is the guy that gets stressed out, he gets spun out, he can't connect things, he gets kind of confused, might get really flighty, okay? That's what the vata looks like. So what do you want to do with a person like that? You have to ground that fellow. So you want to do things, you want to make sure their digestive fire is turned on and the Agni is dialed in right. And you really want to bring in some kapha, some earth and water elements. You want to oil that person. You want to use oil and oil that body down, settle that nervous system down. You want that person to have moistening, lubricating foods there. You want to have some warmth in there because a vata person will be really chilly. They'll be windy and cold, right? So this is where you take, you want to use some, like warming soups, spices, food. So that's where the pitta side, you want to keep a vata person warm, but you want to keep them grounded. So you see, you take that kind of a thing and you balance that fellow. Make sense? Yeah. Let's keep going, but this is a really good example of kind of how we can start to look and see what's a person exhibiting, and we usually want to examine ourselves first before we run around trying to fix everybody else. Physician, heal thyself.
What I also been on that level though is, why would you kind of change their natural aspect of their...
If a vata person is in balance, then that person is quick-minded, sharp, flexible in body and mind. And you want to leave it because those are wonderful qualities. Again, there's nothing bad or wrong about having a vata disposition. This is, again, just to use myself as the example, the vata, when it's dialed in, it can unlock psychic potential. You can really unlock different extraordinary capabilities. The nervous system will be really strong and dialed in. You will be balanced. So there are beneficial traits to all of the elements in all the doshas. There is no good and bad. That's that dualistic mental setup that we all kind of think. Well, it's yes and no. It's black and white. It's this or that. It's red team, blue team. It's black and white. It's Democrat, Republican. It's liberal or conservative. You see this whole thing, this ping pong thing, and its identity, and they've locked us into that. It's engineered to keep people locked into a certain framework. So what we're doing is opening up the box here and seeing that humanity is humanity. And humanity and life itself, when we're all just here together, there is an intelligence. There is a pro-life kind of a thing that's going on here. I want you to be better people. I want you to be better husbands, better wives, better brothers, better sisters, better aunts, better uncles, better artists. I want you to be more creative. I want you to be stronger. I want you to be more healthy. I want you to be more spiritually advanced. More of those kinds of things. And I think that's one thing that everybody really wants. So we all really want the same thing. And so we're all on this big field of humanity, and it's just the elements. And this is part of it. It's key understanding that there's not necessarily one that's better or worse. We may need to kind of adjust and rebalance a little bit. But Vata is Vata, and Vata can be very outgoing, and a Pitta person can, they can be very balanced. A Kapha person, when they're very well balanced, they will be very grounded and very stable and sturdy and have a wonderful constitution, right? These are good things. The out of balance Kapha is obese and tamasic, overweight. They got diabetes and blood sugar stuff and all this other stuff. You see, so you can get imbalances in everything, but when we have the elemental understanding and we can work with some of these basic understandings, we know how to kind of walk in that. But loving yourself is key, because nobody's broken is kind of the trip too. Nobody's broken. You came in and you landed in a body, you chose a body, you were born, God made you just like He made you, and there are no mistakes in the universe. There are no mistakes in that sense. So there's a really core understanding here that you love yourself and you are God. That's the real trip. You are God in the perfect proportion, in the perfect balance, in the perfect ratio, in that sense. And when things happen, we can roll with that. The essence in treatment here is the removal of cause. So treatments, we want to remove the obstacles to cure. Numero uno, remove the obstacles to cure. If you are